Hello, and welcome to Book to Podcast from AudioBite, all about raising online profiles and presence of published and soon-to-be-published authors. In the next half hour or so, you'll have an intimate introduction to the author and their book. For more details, please visit audio-bite.co.uk. And now, here's your host, Viv Ayulu.
Welcome to Book to Podcast today. I'm interviewing Salli Glover, the author of How to Attract Mr. Right in 90 Days or Less. Salli is the creator of the Mr. Right program, a proven strategies she's learned the hard, slow and painful way, she says, using tools, techniques she learned over a decade coaching and studying. She's created her program of finally finding her Mr. Right, who arrived in 3 short weeks and now happily married. Salli is passionate about helping other women free themselves from the trap of staying in old habits and behaviours which keep them single. So welcome to Book to Podcast.
Hello, Viv. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great privilege.
No, it's lovely to see you again. And how did you come to write this book?
This book was written based on my own experiences, you've just said. So I put together a program for myself using every coaching tool, methodology that I have learned over the last 12 years, because every area of my life was working really, flourishing amazingly, apart from that one area. And it became clear, age 37, I'm really clear I want to have babies and all of that. It became clear that I had to take some drastic action in my love life. So I dumped the boyfriend I was with New Year's Eve, nothing like a fresh start on New Year. And I created my own homemade program for myself to really get this right. And it worked. As you've just said, he showed up within 3 weeks of taking that on, which is incredible. I am now married and we're trying for those babies. And I run a coaching business working with women, and I'm surrounded by women all the time. And there was just a real appetite. Everyone was biting my arm off saying, please share with me what you've done. And I'm just amazed constantly about how many talented, gorgeous, beautiful, funny, driven, incredible women there are who, by all rights, should be totally married off and are not. And so I got researching about that. It's a very interesting point in history that we're at. It's never been like this before. There aren't any role models because nobody else has been at this point in history where we get to choose the way we do and date the way we do and meet people the way we do. So I chose to write the book so that people would have the equivalent of a kind of big sister.
Yeah, exactly. So let's dive right in. And one of the chapters we're going to be talking about is, we'll start off with chapter 2, which is turn up your vibrator. And you're talking about vibe as in the frequency, aren't you? So just in case people are wondering, oh, vibrator, did you say that word? And tell us why this chapter is key.
Thanks, Viv. Yeah, you're quite right. I'm not talking about a trip to Ann Summers, I come from a position that we are all human vibrators, i.e. you are, and I am, and everyone else that's listening, we're vibrating constantly. We're like highly charged electromagnetic force fields giving off energy all the time. So you'll have met that woman who just kind of breezes through life. Everything's effortless. She seems really kind of like, when she walks in a room, people just stop and look, she just kind of glides through and attracts in all these great opportunities, and him, her Mr. Right. And it's about the vibration she's vibrating at. And you'll be familiar with feeling a good vibe or a bad vibe. And so this chapter is really dedicated to how we can up our own personal frequency, vibe at the best possible kind of charge, so that we attract in somebody who's also vibrating at the same frequency. Because just like magnets, we attract in things in perfect harmony with where we're at. So obviously, if we're vibrating at a low frequency called, oh, I hate being single, there's not enough men out there, it's never going to happen for me, that's affecting the state we're in, and that's also attracting in perfect matches for that. So the aim of this chapter is to set people up to be vibrating at the level which will attract in the perfect guy for them, who's positive, happy, healthy and functional and all the things that you're looking for.
And one of the things you talk about is having a paradigm shift in the way they see things. So talking about one of the things you just mentioned, there are not enough guys, there are not enough this. How can people change that thinking?
And there are many, many ways to change our paradigm or the way in which we view the world. So really, it's not about the situation that you're in as a single woman. It never is. the facts of your reality. It's your relationship to that reality, or the story that you tell yourself about that reality. And so inside this book, every single chapter plays its part. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. So each chapter peels back one layer, i.e. one story that you have going on, and it just debunks that story. So through the processes outlined in this book, slowly but surely, every woman reading it will go from whatever her current story of reality is to a whole new paradigm, a whole new way of looking at her situation, who she is, the kind of guy that's going to come, the environment she's living in, her, how she spends her time, all of those things. That's how we, step by step by step, shift from where you are, where you're stuck, into a whole new you.
You talk about healing quickly from past thoughts and past paradigms. How can this be done quickly? Because you talk about that.
Yes, I mean, I'm my own case study too. And then, yes, there's Rachel, I think you're referring to in the book, who really went through it. I mean, 10 years engaged to somebody who then ran off with a good friend of hers. Not great stuff. So how do we heal from that kind of hurt? Well, the first thing I say is don't avoid the feelings. Like, that's the biggest pitfall, is that we resist feeling about the situation. And therefore, we seek to kind of avoid the feelings. My position on that is the only way out is through. So actually just being with the feelings of pain, allowing them to arise, sitting with them. It's amazing how quickly they go, actually. You don't spend months wailing and gnashing of teeth at all. It really passes quick. And then the next step...
But not for everybody, because some people will think, well, I really want to enjoy this pain. I don't know if you ever see that.
Yeah, and there's a great phrase, it's not my own, it was someone else's, called hippo time, which is about allowing yourself an opportunity to wallow, but only for an amount of time that's healthy, So actually, what I mean is don't kind of, there's that saying, back on the saddle. And I think some people just leap straight back on the saddle as an avoidance strategy. And for others, like you quite rightly point out, there's dwelling in misery for way too long. So I'm not on about having a pity party, but I think feeling the feelings rather than seeking to avoid them. And then the next stage to that is really, really going to work on loving yourself. And I talk in the book about how to date yourself, how to really, literally treat yourself the way you want that guy to treat you. So taking yourself for dinner, treating yourself to massages, detoxing, create your body as the perfect, temple for healing to take place, and really treat yourself the way it is that you're stepping into when Mr. Right turns up.
Do you think in some cases we haven't really valued ourselves, so somebody can come and do that sort of thing where date you for 10 years and then go off with your best friend?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way in which we feel about ourselves, as I said before, we're perfect. We're like a magnet. So we will always get back what we're putting out. And sometimes we don't even know that's what we're putting out. So again, through the book, I as I say, layer by layer by layer, we will look at each area of your life, any past baggage, stories you've got going on. I mean, I'm talking even right down to how you were raised as a child. We inherit loads of stuff from our parents too. But yeah, well, you're constantly putting out a frequency that will attract back in perfectly. And I know this, by the way, because of all the losers I went out with. They were perfect for where I was at right then.
Well, that's a thing of the past.
Exactly.
And in chapter 6, where we talk about identifying Mr. Right, and reading this, I was thinking, we hear so many conflicting things about identifying what we want or not identifying what we want. But you're clear here. It's about being specific about what it is you want. And are we talking about a list here?
We are certainly talking about a list. Yes, absolutely. I know. Well, the whole book's pretty controversial. Let me tell you, every chapter is going to rub someone up the wrong way, and I know it works. Yeah, I'm all up for writing the list. But what I actually do when in the live coaching program is I then get people to really order that list in terms of priorities, because what ends up on the list are what I call shiny things. So it's like, I want him to have bulging biceps, or he's got to have this colour hair. Minimum height seems to be a big one. I did that one really well. Now, the bottom line is, ladies, if you're serious about you want to be married, have the family or whatever, or just the, permanent, long-lasting love with a guy that's really going to treat you the way that you deserve and that, create that fulfilling relationship, let me tell you, a couple of inches on or off the height has no bearing on that fulfillment whatsoever. So for me, it's about, yes, get very specific, because if you've got a vague dream, you'll get vague results. So be very specific in that list, and then be very careful about your top 3 to 5. So for me, it's like, I wanted a man that was committed to having a loyal, loving, a family. He wanted to be a husband and father to some children. Number 1 on my list this time round. I did a list before, by the way, and I attracted in a perfect guy for what I had written. So I was all about, at that point, I was all about an alpha male. I really wanted one that would kind of, you know, throw me around the bedroom a bit and be a leader. I think that was an antidote to the past one before him. And you know, I wanted big biceps, big arms. For some reason, was a feature. I ended up with a former world champion boxer. I got exactly what I asked for. Thing is, Viv, I had been reckless with my request because I actually wanted a husband and father.
Not just someone who was bulging.
Exactly. So I got exactly what I asked for, and it wasn't that. So this time I was really careful about my list and making sure that my priority on the list, number one, was, you know, true to my real reality about what's number one on my list.
Yeah. And how did you come to that realization? Is it because you were very disciplined with yourself about the past relationships, the ones that didn't work, and you knew that, well, I have to be honest with what I truly, truly want?
Yeah, that's a really great point, Viv. I think a later chapter in the book is called Walk Through Life Without Apology. And for some reason, I don't know what it is with us women, but we seem to feel afraid, embarrassed, too shy, I don't know, to kind of say, I want to be a wife and mother, or, you know, I'm really looking for a guy to live with permanently, to be monogamous with. It's almost like we've turned into these beings that feel we have to be totally independent, and almost as if asking for those things is needy. So I avoided asking for those things for a long time, and true to form, I got exactly what I asked for.
You also talk about breaking habits that we have. So we have a certain type.
Yeah.
He has to be, because my last boyfriend was 6'5", so this one has to be 6'4" at the very least.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, another controversial one here, Viv. I strongly encourage women to give up their type. And you know, why wouldn't you? If it hasn't been working out so far, I think it's Einstein said along the lines of the definition of insanity, keep doing the same things over and over and over, whilst expecting a different result, you know? So it's insanity to keep going after your type if it hasn't worked out thus far. And I don't just mean, first of all, I mean get rid of your physical type, because by just focusing in on that physical type, you could be missing out on the man of your dreams who has a different colour hair. You know, why would you want to do that? That's getting in your own way. The other bit of type is some of the more subtle ones that you won't recognise, and this is where I encourage people to get a love sponsor, I call it. So this is a woman who has been successful in relationships, who you trust, who loves you, and who is prepared to kick your butt in the pursuit of your happiness when you need it. That person's job is also to watch out for you and some of the more subtle types that you go for. So what I mean by that is, on my list, it didn't say this person must be a real party person. That wasn't on my list, but unconsciously I kept seeking that kind of person, and I didn't even see that until, you know, I recruited and enlisted the support of a good friend of mine to coach me, and she spotted that, and I kept being kind of magnetically drawn to these types. Now that isn't necessarily the right place to look for a guy who's going to be a father to my children.
Okay. There's an exercise for women in the book, and you ask them to sign it.
Yeah.
So why is that?
This is all about commitment. So the piece you're referring to is writing out that list. There's a very specific way of wording it, which is deliberately worded. I'm a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. It's deliberately worded in a way that sets your unconscious mind up to start filtering for the things that you do want, and not to keep remembering the things that you don't want. And I'll go into that in the book. I don't need to do that here. Yeah. But yeah, I get people to sign it because it's a commitment to yourself. It's like you're making it formal. You know, in life, the only time we sign a document is because we mean business. You know, it's like that's like, you know, the gentlewoman's handshake right there. So we commit to it unconsciously and consciously, and it also sends out there's something about declarations, and this is talked about through Buddhism, through to neurolinguistics, through to many different philosophies and outlets. But there's something about the act of declaration that brings what you're looking for closer to you. And signing it off in that way is a really firm declaration to the universe. This is the path that I'm taking now.
And what if you want to change that?
What, you want to change the list?
Maybe you want to change something on it. Does it matter? You can just go and, I guess, initial it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm being frivolous, aren't I?
No, go for it. I think because you will, new things will come to your mind.
Yeah.
You know, you'll go on a date with someone, you'll be like, oh my God, I forgot to put this thing on my list that this guy showed up and did. I forgot to say he would be funny. You know, fine, add it in.
Okay. Good. Another important thing which you mention it in this is clearing out the closet. And who are you referring to in this chapter?
Yeah, so clearing out the closet spans all areas, Viv. I'm talking about any emotional ties that you have that are doing anything other than creating 100% clear and pure space for Mr. Right to show up. So, if you're guilty of having a friend with benefits, or you have the ex on the phone once a week, or you're hanging out once a fortnight, and it's great to be friends with your ex, by the way. I'm not suggesting that you delete everyone from your phone book immediately, but it's just, don't kid yourself. If you're relying on that person as some kind of emotional crutch, then it's not healthy. And again, be careful what signals you give out to the universe. I talk about this universe a lot, but the signal you're giving out will be, well, okay, on the one hand, I've written this list and I've made a commitment. I'm committed to being in a relationship with this kind of guy. And then on the other hand, you're going out on Friday night and spending your time with some bloke. Then it's a confusing message. There's no space. You have to create a clear, clean, empty space.
And that's different. Just to point out that's different from just dating, looking for but just hanging out with one person that there isn't really a potential.
Absolutely. You're sending out confusing signals. You're wasting both of your time. So I encourage women to have a look at that. Like, there might be a guy that they're dating they haven't committed to that actually is really wonderful and hits all the things on your Mr. Right list. In that case, skip to the final chapter, which we're going to talk about in a minute, called Play the 1 month game. Yeah. Or you might be hanging out with some guy who's just never, ever, ever going to commit to you, give you what you want, or become your future partner, in which case ditch it. Create the space for something new. And I also talk about your physical space, so creating your home. I love this part. I did this too. I found it really cathartic, very healing, very cleansing, and it worked. Creating your home as if you were moving into it with your future love of your life. So going through every room with your list in hand. There's another whole chapter in there about who you need to be. So I encourage people to kind of imagine that they're stepping into their future being Mrs. Right persona. You go into every single room in that house with that list and you clear out any old rubbish that does not sit inside of what you've committed to.
Yeah. And with the women you're working with or have worked with, do you find that this is easy or difficult to do?
Some have a huge resistance to it. I mean, I hear all sorts of stuff comes up at this point. Some are really grateful, hadn't even thought of it, and love it. I mean, we all know what it's like. A great spring clean. You feel like a new woman at the end. I mean, who wouldn't love the opportunity to go shopping for new cushions and plants and, feminising their home? Lovely. Then I get the others who have a real resistance to it. Here's one I hear a lot, Viv. But I don't, what's the point? My place is really small. It's cramped. It's a studio. I haven't really got enough room for a guy to move. I always thought I'd move into his place. Be warned, I say here. This for me is a red flag alert, which is like, okay, so you're waiting for some guy to show up to create for you the life that you really want. That never works. You have to create a life that you really love right now, right here, all by yourself. And from there, your Mr. Right will show up.
I think that's a really tough one for people to accept.
Yeah, absolutely. Not helped, again, by the point in history where we're at, where we were raised with, Prince Charming's going to ride in on his white stallion or, Porsche or yacht or Harley. So, but no, he'll be this type and that. And then someone in the 80s told us we could have it all. I mean, thanks very much, whoever that was. There's this huge pressure and kind of old inherited belief system that, this guy's going to show up, rescue us, take us into some promised new land, and all our dreams will be fulfilled. There's this happy ever after ending. And as we know, that just leads to disappointment. So I say make your own life, make your own happiness, be 100%, need nothing from anybody. Yeah, well, but be yourself. Yeah. We are whole, perfect and complete as we are. And when we come at finding love from a place of I'm not those things, you will find another person who's only half complete. Why would you want that? Be 100% whole, perfect, complete and happy with your lot. And that's where the guy who is exactly the same, again, will magnetically come to you. Yeah,
I completely agree with that. Yes. And moving on, in chapter 10, which is a very interesting chapter, and I think our listeners would find this quite interesting, is we're talking about the chemistry myth and the other things that keep women single. Yeah. And why is this such a big thing?
Yeah, chemistry. Well, this is like the greatest delusion of our times, unfortunately. Here's my position on chemistry. There's like this widely held belief that we're going to have, one day you're going to meet someone, there's going to be this lightning bolt, and it's the one. Now, all of us actually know somebody who probably had that experience. So we hold on to, I'll know he's the one because I'll get the lightning bolt, you know, and that will be it. Love at first sight. And it's a wonderful thing. You know, that's a lovely ideal to have. Who doesn't feel warm and fuzzy at the notion of that? Trouble is, often we've experienced similar feelings to that. You know, the fireworks going off in your stomach, that breathless kind of like, when's he going to call? When's he going to call? And we confuse that with this kind of lightning bolt myth that we've been fed. And so that's what we're seeking. We're seeking to have some kind of physical manifestation of knowing he's the one. And then we collapse the two. When we get the fireworks, the physical, you know, the butterflies in the stomach and the craving, the longing and all those kind of things, we mistakenly believe those are the signs of falling in love. Let me tell you, ladies, they are not. I go at great lengths in this chapter to talk about what's really going on, but I promise you it isn't love. And unfortunately, we chase the high of that chemical reaction. So you feel attraction for someone, you get that lovely heady mix of toxic feelings. It's a bit like real drug addiction, actually. You find a high, you hit the high, you chase that high. Unfortunately, you're never going to experience the same high as the first high, and the only thing that can kind of give you the hit is the guy that created the hit in the first place. That creates a power dynamic then, because you're lusting after this person, very much like drugs as well. It's the kind of person that leaves you wanting more, you know. And there's $1 billion industry out there, by the way, teaching guys how to employ tactics to create this kind of attraction so that they can get women, which tells me that this is a very real kind of delusion going on right now, that like we collapse this attraction feeling. It's very addictive.
Gosh, you talk about how you had some great reasons when you met your husband. What were they? What were the things you saw that you said?
Do you mean the reasons in the way? Because okay.
The reasons, because obviously he was a diamond. There was a diamond within, and you were sort of not.
No, absolutely right, Viv. So to be clear with everybody, so Aaron, my now husband, showed up within 3 weeks, and I then made him wait for a further 3 months while I sorted my stuff out. And it was during that 3 months that I started researching and really got my head around this chemistry business and understood it. And thank goodness that I did, because I think otherwise I would have rejected Aaron, because again, I was confusing this, like I felt like I wanted this huge chemical reaction to take place, and therefore he would be the one. And I had all sorts of reasons. Yes, so and I get lots of nods when I do workshops and I say this phrase. I say, anyone here ever said, well, he's really great, he ticks all the boxes, but I'm just not feeling that spark? And I hear it all the time. And that's, for me, that was true. I did fancy him. I thought he was attractive. He was fine. He was everything on my list, Viv. And I still was like, I'm not feeling that spark. And again, I was just chasing this. You can't even, if you try and pin down what that thing is, you can't do it. Which is quite funny. So I had things like, I didn't like his accent, his legs were too short, he worked in the city, I made a decision therefore that he wasn't going to be spiritual enough or into philosophy enough and all this sort of stuff. I had a whole bunch of reasons, none of which actually appeared on nowhere on my list did it say this man must have long legs. You know, that would be ridiculous.
Thank goodness you persevered, or he persevered and stuck around with you. And just looking at one of the final chapters, Play You Are the One, I think this is really interesting. I think it's my favourite chapter in the book. Yeah. Tell us about this and why you created this.
Yeah, okay, great. Well, firstly, let me talk about why this chapter works and what it is. So play You're the One. It means that you've met somebody, both of you like each other, still quite early days, and what you do is you commit to, for 1 month, you relate to each other like, okay, so you're not dating anyone else, you're not seeing anyone else. Anytime you have a thought that goes along the lines of, oh, I'm not sure about this one, you just realign that thought with, no, this is the one. And you get the other person to play the game with you, so you're both in. And at the end of the month, you review it. And you can play it again. You can choose to just remain friends, or like myself there, and you can start talking about wedding plans. It works very quickly.
What's the benefit of doing this?
Well, we live in an age, again, it's very pertinent to right now. We live in an age where we're completely overwhelmed with choice. And our brains we're not psychologically, we don't have a psychological disposition to cope with this. So in the event of such choice and overwhelm, we've always got the back door open. There's always a potential better one out there.
Plan B.
There's always a plan B, exactly. And this is why I think we're not connecting, and it's kind of taking us so long to settle down with people, because there's always this infinite array of what ifs available, you know? What if I'd gone out with a millionaire instead? What about that other guy that was interested before? Well, there might be, he looks quite nice on Match.com. You know, what if? What this does, the Play the 1 month game, is you shut the door on all of that noise. You shut out out all the rest of the world, and you put 100% full focus, all of your energy, your time, your heart, your head into one person and one person only, and you make your decision based on who they are and who you are, which in reality is all that there is. And you just cut out all the noise. It's so effective.
Tell us your own experience.
The 1 month game?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So I actually didn't invent the 1 month game. I have to give credit where it's due to my good friend Kelly, who invented it. Yeah, we love you, Kelly. And she persuaded me to have a go, and I did. Thank goodness. Again, so week 1, there's a saying in personal development called fake it till you make it, okay? And I certainly felt like I was doing that. So I felt like a fraud. The thoughts kept popping in my head, sort of saying, oh God, what are you doing? This is ridiculous, you know. So a lot of noise in my head for week 1. Wasn't sure at all. Week 2, something started to shift. I still had the occasional thought of like, what am I doing? How's this going to work out? What about him over there? But I was much more, a warm feeling started to kind of come over me about Aaron, my husband. Like,
so
really...
how was he within this second week?
Okay, he loved this game. Like, Aaron had been hoping that I would come to my senses for months. So when I said to him, all right, I'm in, I'm going to choose you, we're going to, if you're up for it, I'm going to suggest this game for 1 month. And at the end of that 1 month, we'll both be clear. You know, he loved it. He just wanted to be clear. He was hoping that the 1 month would work, which it did. So yeah, by week 2, you know what really started to happen, Viv, was by week 2, I really saw his potential as a great husband, father, and all-round guy to be with, because I'd shut out all that noise, you know, which finally got rid of itself after week 1. By week 3, there was no game anymore. Week 3, I can authentically, hand on heart, say I knew that I loved this guy, and it was a love that was very different and completely distinguished from that chemistry fireworky stuff. This was a lovely, deep, solid, authentic feeling that I had met a soulmate, you know, that I could spend the rest of my dying days with this person, be taken care of, loved, adored, nourished, you know. It was really warm. So yeah, we came to the end of our 1 month. We didn't really need to discuss playing it again. We were talking weddings and children at that point. Oh. Very effective. Be careful.
Yeah. That is amazing, because I think people would think, especially the fake it till you make it bit would scare people off. No, I want to be real. I really don't like him. So as long as the other person is happy to do it, then I guess it will work.
Absolutely. And do you know what? It's a great test here's your first test as to whether this guy is your Mr. Right. Because if he says, I'm not playing any game like that, I don't want to play like you, you know, if they have a resistance to treating you like you're the one for a month, hey, red flag alert. You know, this guy's not the one. Yeah. You want a man who will, like Aaron did, literally bite your arm off and go, I'm in, let's do it right now, can't wait. You know, he even went to the lengths of planning a moonlight picnic by the sea for the end of our 1 month. I mean, that's the kind of guy you want, ladies.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can people find out about your 12-step program?
So they can visit the website, which is www.howtoattractmrright.com. So there's 3 chapters for free available there. There's some video tutorials on there if you want to pick out any of the chapters and learn a bit more. And then, yeah, just by popping your email in there, I will send you out I've got all sorts of stuff about online dating that I'm sending people, and I let people know about there's a 90-day program that I'm creating. It's all done online, comfort of your own sofa. And you don't have to do it in 90 days. I understand that some people are busy or not quite ready, so you can take it at your own time. But this walks through people through all of the strategies that, like I say, I spent 12 years perfecting these before I finally had them work for me in the area of love.
Well, thank you so much, Sally. That's been very, very insightful. I'm really wishing you luck with this book.
Thank you so much, Viv. Thanks.
So thank you for listening to Book to Podcast on Audio Byte. If you want to listen to more interviews, go to audio-byte.co.uk and see you next time. Bye-bye.